Well, first of all, thank you so much to the team for inviting me. I've wanted to come to the Big Tent Ideas Festival ever since it started. And I think George has invited me a few times and I've tried a few times. So I'm so delighted to join you now, and thanks so much for organising it. Thanks, George, for the invite. In the bio, so you sort of introduced me as you know, as an MP and obviously Minister for Apprenticeship and Skills. But I actually identified with something you said, Mark, which was about seeing the gap between what skills and talent, skills are being taught and what business and industry need. And I saw that gap as well, because before becoming an MP, I spent 30 years working in technology businesses all over the world and recruiting thousands of people. And there was two things that struck me. The one was the disconnect and how difficult it is to get education really in sync, you know, with a fast-moving technology environment and a global technology environment, and you know what it is we need to do better to keep those things working really well. So I'm actually delighted that I'm now in this job at this time with this opportunity to try and contribute to that challenge. And it's certain that the pandemic has also been a great challenge for education, but it is also an opportunity for us to adopt technological and behavioural changes amongst providers, teachers, students, the whole system really. We've already learned such a lot in a short time. And one of the most important things is the behavioural change that's happened. Behavioural change, I was involved in starting the journey for digital cash in 1990s in Tokyo in 1996, and it took forever, and largely the technology was there. Technology is often there ahead of the behavioural change, and that's because it's something new, it's something scary, it's something that, you know, I can imagine if we were trying to convince all of the FE teachers, for example, that everything needed to be digital within a couple of weeks, we would have had an impossible job. But when you've got no choice, everything went digital, and everything went digital really quickly. And actually the education sector did by and large respond really well, and certainly the bit that I'm responsible for further education did a brilliant job of moving everything online, very engaging classes and very interactive. So they did a brilliant job. We've also seen the establishment of things like the Oak National Academy. We established a National Academy in April, you know, overnight really. And that was obviously as a rapid response to the coronavirus outbreak. And that's an online classroom which is made by teachers for teachers, and it offers free, high quality video lessons and resources. And it's had 4.7 million unique users who've already visited the site. Again, if we'd have talked about that in February, nobody would have thought that was possible. So we've really proved a lot to ourselves during the pandemic, and that's where the opportunity comes. We've responded by making rapid investment in technology. Of course, we also had to make sure that everybody had access to technology, because that was the only way we were all doing anything in our lives, really. So between May and July 2020, we set up the Get Help with Technology program, which provided laptops, tablets, 4G wireless routers to local authorities and academy trusts for children, families, and those adults most in need, those that didn't have access. And actually, I think in general, it was really the dongles, the data, that was often the thing that was most valued really, and most required, because a lot of people do have access to technology, but data, and when you've got everybody at home, there were some data challenges as well. We've been supporting schools through the Key for School leaders to access one of two free-to-use digital education platforms. That's G Suite for Education and Office 365 Education, and obviously further supporting schools and colleges to adapt to this change. So, you know, we've been given demonstrator to schools and colleges to help those that perhaps were a bit further behind on technology, providing peer-to-peer support, spreading this sort of learning and sharing content even, and we've extended the College Collaboration Fund, which really now supports the digital resource development. Again, these are all things that have come quite quickly. Our research and development partnership with Nesta is supporting schools and colleges by building a useful evidence base of what works and what does not work well. And we will take some lessons from that, because we need to support ed tech companies to improve their remote learning tools as well. All of us have gone through this massive baptism of fire in a way. But what we're doing is we're doing all this because it is crucial that young people get opportunities no matter what challenges we face. And obviously coronavirus is still with us. We're hearing of lockdowns in various parts of the country. We're hoping all schools and education settings stay open, but we also need a plan B in case, and obviously online is that. Now, beyond that, the demand for STEM skills is growing, particularly for sectors such as engineering and construction, manufacturing, everything digital. There isn't a business in this country that is not digital now more than ever. So we're funding programs to take up, to increase the take up of maths and computing, physics, and really trying to improve the teaching of maths and science and computing in our schools, but also to encourage more young people to take them up. And actually maths is now the most popular A level, so it is working to some degree, but we obviously need to do more. And we're raising awareness of careers that STEM qualifications can offer, because a lot of people think of STEM and they think they probably have an old image of what STEM is in many ways. And I think it's really important that people know what STEM is in today's world, in the digital world, in the world that we're living in right now. And certainly from myself, I've banned anybody from using any photographs or any images which play into the stereotype of what STEM is. STEM is construction, it is manufacturing, it has got those elements as well, but it's also so much more, and we need to broaden the understanding of what STEM is and what STEM careers are. In the Department for Education, we've now introduced a basic digital skills, which is a universal entitlement to everybody at any age, at any stage. That was introduced in August. We were doing that anyway, but goodness, what great timing. And maybe it would have been better the August before, but in terms of being able to respond to the world we're living in now. And we've also introduced something called the Skills Toolkit, which is a collaboration with lots of tech employers, which I think is really great, actually, because you can go on, they're all free, you can do the courses in your own time. And we've now done the second wave, and we've had hundreds of tech companies offering really valuable resources. And so we're going to be using that more and more as a way to reach people. T-levels, for anyone who hasn't heard of T-levels, these are really fantastic. I've spent my summer going to virtual open days, and I can tell that these have been developed with businesses as well as with the education sector. And that is the sweet spot. That's the thing, Mark, that makes this system really work, when you're working together with very leading employers and normally multinational employers as well. So they've got a real global view of the skills that are needed and the talent race that we're all in. And they have helped design T-levels. And I'm delighted that we went ahead, even despite the pandemic, and kept to schedule to make sure that they were introduced, because I think they will revolutionize technical education in this country. And they are fantastic. And I think hopefully they're going to also overcome that perennial battle of that many graduates have, or many people have, which is, you haven't got any work experience. Well, I need a job to get work experience. Well, you haven't got any work experience, and this constant catch-22, because T-levels do have a minimum of 9-week work placement, valuable, high quality industry placement, which I think is going to be great for young people.
Gillian, just the point there, not every student is academic, some of them are technical, so that's a great opportunity with the T-levels, and I think that it provides young people an alternative. If they're not academic, they can fall into this T-level remit, which has a plethora of different industry providers and different people to contribute to that.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, they are equivalent to 3 A levels. And if you get the top grade, it's actually equivalent to 3 A stars, so 168 UCAS points. But it's a different type of study. I did an apprenticeship. I left school at 16 and did an apprenticeship. And I loved learning and studying at the same time. It really, whether you're academic or not, it's a great way, if you're technically minded, to actually learn. I call it career-led study. It's basically, you're in a workplace and then you're confirming and reaffirming and learning more and transferring knowledge actually between the two. So it's also people who really have like a more practical way of learning. So they are a great opportunity. Obviously, apprenticeships, I did an apprenticeship, and I am the world's biggest fan of apprenticeships. I left school at 16, a comprehensive school in Merseyside, and I did an apprenticeship, which took me all the way to degree apprenticeship. When I left school, I never would have thought I could have done a degree. I never thought I was academic at all, but actually that way of learning meant I could go on, and it really made sense to me. So apprenticeships are a great way for young people to get the skills they need. And of course, we've been very focused on trying to, through the recovery plan, make sure that we encourage and incentivize lots of employers to take on apprentices. So we've been providing incentives that just started actually from August for £2,000 onwards for young apprentices, and 1,500 for older apprentices. So we've got a number of things in our skills recovery plan as well, which really are focused on trying to offering more ability to get to do high value courses, particularly in skills gaps. I think one of the things we've understood is before the pandemic, we were almost in full employment. We had 3.8% unemployment, and we had massive skills gaps in every sector. So my job at the first couple of months was about, you know, how do we fill skills gaps in construction, in engineering, in health, teachers. I mean, pretty much everywhere we had massive skills gaps, and we will still have those skills gaps at some point in the near future, because most of them were in industries that are still going to need the skills. Health, for example, is not going to be reducing its employment need anytime soon. There's also been a lot of investment in the FE sector, in capital, in institutes of technology, to make sure that we have the latest equipment, because I think that's an important thing, that you need to have that to make sure that people, you know, young people are learning the latest techniques with the latest equipment that really does replicate what they will see in the workplace. So I think that's very, very important. So, you know, there's an awful lot of things that are going on. FE is a huge focus of this government, and the Levelling Up agenda it's really seen that it's kind of, it's the untapped resource, and it's really what most businesses are crying out for as well. So we're at the beginning of the journey. We have the opportunity to shape the National Skills Fund, which is a £2.5 billion investment in adult skills, which has been committed already. And I think, you know, some of the lessons we've learned through the global pandemic gives us the opportunity to perhaps look more ambitiously at more modular upskilling, more flexible delivery, and things that perhaps we would have thought were maybe years out, and we can bring that to you know, ever closer. And it's important. I mean, this is probably the biggest revolution in our technical education in this country in about 70 years. But we do need to get it right, because we do know we suffer from low productivity, and we do know that this is a race that we have to make sure we're really good at, and we're in it to win it, so that we and skills are a massive part of that journey, and we need to make sure that everybody has the access to those skills at any stage of their life, whenever and wherever they are.